claim, my brother said, well, I'm her mother because she listens to me when I call her. And my other sister said, I'm her mother. I'm the oldest, and you weren't even born when Dad brought her home. And, so they were arguing, I'm her mother, I'm her mother. And finally, my mother turned around to the back seat where all of us kids were arguing, and she said, I'll tell you something about mothers. And we all kind of listened because she was our mother, right? She said, I want to tell you something, she said. The mother is the one who feeds the child. I am Bimbo's mother. Out of a particular visual of who is mother. I mean, we had already all gotten past. Anyway, the story speaks for itself. But I do want to say that I think that when we talk about masculine and feminine, as an English teacher, I want to remind people that those are adjectives, not nouns. So we're not talking about men and women when we talk about masculine and feminine. Masculine and feminine are adjectives that describe qualities, could be human qualities, and we believe in this congregation that they're also divine qualities. And what we've talked about a lot is that they exist in all living beings, these qualities, and that sometimes they're in balance and sometimes they're not in balance. And I think many of us, over the course of these explorations, whether they've been happening this year or previous years, we want to call to attention and acknowledge the fact that in our current day societies, modern societies in general throughout the globe, the masculine and the feminine energies are not in balance right now, and that it's part of what we're struggling with as a human community on planet Earth. Now, many people call the Earth she, feminine. Again, there's nouns. The Earth is a noun. Feminine is an adjective. So I'd like us to keep that in mind as we think about these energies. And I think that the Chinese seem to me to have it down the best when they're always calling for balance in yin and yang. And masculine and feminine are some of the ways they describe yin and yang, but not the only ways. And they describe all different kinds of opposites as being yin and yang. And they also describe that they must be always in balance for us to be healthy, content, and have our personal power. We must have this balance. So I encourage us to think about that as we go through our discernment for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Savitri.
So that was wonderful. One of the things about our community here is we create space for everyone to have a voice and to share their spirituality. And sometimes we need to give ourselves permission to reach these deep states and to share them. One of the things I brought for today was a prayer to Inanna. So I thought I would begin this portion of the service with that prayer. And I wanted to mention to you some studying that I've been doing for years about ancient languages and the origins of ancient languages. And I rediscovered some information that I thought I had lost, but I found it again. And it's talking about the original ancient understanding and language for describing the divine in the Middle East. And Mesopotamia, Sumeria, Sumer. And so I'm going to call this out into our consciousness, that the word El, E-L, like Elohim, the word Al, like Allah, Alaha, that base of the word translates or has an understanding of that. So El is that. Al is that. Or, also, it is the one. El and Al is the one. But the absolute best explanation I found is this. The one, which expresses itself uniquely through all things. So the base word El, or Al, is the one which expresses itself uniquely through all things. So truly it's not masculine or feminine, but it is the one that expresses itself uniquely through all things. That is through us. Our uniqueness has a divine expression through our existence. And so the divine feminine often gets shared in many, many names, which I think are important to state. So I'm going to read some names of the divine feminine before I read the prayer to Inanna. Mother Earth, Goddess, Gaia, Pachamama, Nature, Grandmother, Hera, Isis, Demeter, Pavarti, Shakti, Devi, Great Mother, Kuan Yin, Tara, Gayatri, and Mary are a few names in which we tried to describe this ancient, creative, universal image, energy, this creative universal energy, the one which expresses itself uniquely through all things. And so now a prayer to Inanna. Inanna, the Queen of Heaven, the Goddess of Love, and Queen of the Earth. Mighty, majestic, and radiant, you shine brilliantly in the evening. You brighten the day at dawn. You stand in the heavens like the sun and the moon. Your wonders are known both above and below. To the greatness of the holy priestess of heaven, to you, Inanna, I sing. I say, hail to the Holy One who appears in the heavens. I say, hail to the holy priestess of heaven. I say, hail to Inanna, great lady of heaven. Holy torch, you fill the sky with light. You brighten the day at dawn. I say, hail to Inanna, great lady of heaven, awesome lady of the Anuna gods. Crowned with great horns, you fill the heavens and earth with light. I say, hail to Inanna, first daughter of the moon. Mighty, majestic, and radiant, you shine brilliantly in the evening. You brighten the day at dawn. You stand in the heavens like the sun and the moon. Your wonders are known both above and below. To the greatness of the holy priestess of heaven, to you, Inanna, I sing. So there's an understanding about the wounding that has happened with the increased patrilineal associations, and the minimization of the divine feminine. And a woman named, psychotherapist named Anne Baring, she talked about one of the reasons this happened is that we lost our concept, our vision of what the Divine Mother is. We lost her in a large consciousness, but we also lost her in our individual consciousness. This is so perfect, Sally Jo's story that she talked about her mother and how everyone is the mother, and yet the mother speaks. And the mother tells the truth. And the mother brings in this divine love and reminds us as to how we are loved. And the chant that Jamal sang, Bismillah, there's a description about these words, Bismillah, in addition to Al being the one who uniquely manifests this divine energy in all things. That is, the Bismillah is the womb of the traditions. And in the womb there's love and compassion and mercy. And that when we think and envision the mother, we have images in our consciousness, either through a divine mother, as may happen in your images of Mother Mary and the infant Jesus in her lap, or ancient goddesses. They're often depicted with the child, the infant in their lap. But there's more to imagine, and we want to reclaim, to reinvigorate within us our concept of the Divine Mother. And in your order of service, I don't know that you and I have it, but in your order of service there are these symbols of the strength of the Divine Feminine. And it is suggested that if you contemplate on these symbols, it helps awaken in you at a cellular level this empowerment and this powerful love that is present. And so I gathered all these up for us, that we have a look at these on a daily basis, like over the next month. Just choose one of these each day and have a look and contemplate this being a symbol of strength. The other thing, for those who are in the room, we have this order of service that has these 3 spirals. And these 3 spirals share with us this balance that we're seeking. We're seeking balance between all things and balance with the divine. And there's ways that this works very well for us to keep in consciousness our divine self whenever we're in communication with another. Because it's this divine energy that comes through us uniquely and allows us to be guided by our world, guided through our world. So imagine for yourself now, let's close our eyes and just envision what image, presence, energy that you feel from the Divine Mother, the Divine Feminine. And you might balance that with the image that you hold for the Divine Masculine. And that these forces work together to create a wholeness within each human being, but also in the dynamics of the world. So we'll come back to this in a moment, but hold that in your consciousness. So apparently in this person I reference, Anne Baring, she talked about we've lost our consciousness, what the divine feminine is, and we don't have an image of her. Also, we've failed that someone in their unique manifestation of the divine is present with us in this room. And then expand around the entire circle. To feel the presence of the one, which expresses itself uniquely through all things. And then allow your consciousness to move into those beings where the one is expressing itself uniquely through them and through the world. And hold that and be conscious in the room again. And we'll continue with a little bit more. In the balance of the masculine and the feminine in the world is because everything pulls together. Everything wants to unite. When we talk about a balance of masculine and feminine, we're actually talking about matter and spirit joining. And it is often said about at the beginning of the creation of the universe how particles move together and formed clusters. So energetically, that's what we are doing on the earth. And we are all under the mother's love and compassion and mercy as we experienced in the womb, but we also recognize that we are currently in the womb of creation. It just looks different than it did. So there's a beautiful teaching through Rumi who talks about that we have a crack in our allows healing to come through. And it is our practice of love, of mercy and compassion that we experience for ourselves and we experience for others that does that healing. And this kind of healing, this kind of divine riskiness that happens in life is what moves you beyond your limitations and moves you into fields of creativity and science exploration and inventions. And so we open ourselves up to this divine light that heals us and breaks us open so that we can bring through the uniqueness of the divine, the Allah, the Elohim, the Alaha. So the next deepening in having a life is, once we recognize all of these things, is that we want to say yes, and we move into that field of matter and spirit, matter and divinity uniting in such a way that it's called a sacred marriage. And a sacred marriage is not about men and women joining together only. That is also part of the experience, but it is this uniqueness of the divine in matter, that our being, our personalities, our life are significant. There's a scientific experiment that I'll share with you now that you may know of. It's a story about an experiment about light and about photons of a light beam were contained in a vacuum. And this light was chaotic. And it was pure light, pure photons. And entering, as the experiment was, into that vacuum of light, pure light, humanity's DNA was added into this vacuum, and everything changed. Stories about what happened, what should have happened, what could have happened, what broke us, what healed us. And we are in that place now where many in the world are suffering. Many of in the world are having hardships. And it's unbelievable, except it is true. These are the words of the Divine Mother. I am the one who nurtures you. I am the one. I am the one who tells you the truth. There is a way to heal. You make a difference. You belong where you are. You belong here. You're part of this cosmic expansion of humanity. This transformation of the light, the transformation of this level of matter of the earth. If you were not here, this could not happen. Without us doing anything except being conscious and cultivating mercy, compassion, and love, this will work. This will heal the world. So now we return to our meditative state, and I ask you to reach your hand toward another being, as if they are in front of you, and reach for them and hold their hands. and feel your love, your mercy, and your compassion, and your caring for the world. So allow that to continue as we come back to the moment here, but keep all of this consciousness with you. The divine feminine in your consciousness, the divine masculine in your consciousness, keeping in consciousness she, the one, which expresses itself uniquely through all things. Because this is you. And I've invited George to share with us.
Wow. Is that all right? Well, this is kind of interesting. It's beautiful presentation here by Reverend Karen. Kind of leaves me a little lost. One of the things that was mentioned earlier is how Interfaith Community Sanctuary allows for all of us to kind of give our 2 cents worth or give it our opinion. And the other thing is, I don't think we normally do this, but we don't compare notes before the service. And so what I was going to say today basically has already been covered by Sally Jo and beautifully by Reverend Karen. So I'm going to take a little different take on what I was going to say and kind of try to dovetail, but yet at the same time give my own idiosyncratic slant to things, which I have a want to do. Sally Jo was talking so much about the discernment for 2022 here. Encountering the infinite, meeting the divine, mother in nature, humanity, and the cosmos. A contemplative, exploratory inquiry and discovery, that whole process. And what struck me this month is the focus on the reintegration of the feminine. We talked about this for the last couple of weeks now. And what struck me last week was kind of an emphasis on the portion of it, kind of implying that there has to be a kind of turning around and an undoing in some ways. So I want to talk a little bit about that and this beautiful contemplation that Reverend Karen just did, because I contemplate and I meditate, and for me, my meditation has come to have me realize that there's only ever one thing going on, only one thing ever present, and that is God, the universe, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, knowing itself. And I feel that with all my heart, and it informs my whole life. But that might be a topic for another day. But in the diffused light of day, I live in a world of relationships. My relationship with the cosmos, with other people, with nature. And now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And like Karen pointed out, in Hebrew, the word for God is Elohim, which basically is a plural of the word El. And the Spirit of God is Ruach Elohim. And Ruach is feminine. So right here from the first line of Genesis, we find that God is inherently both male and female. Elohim, Ra, Elohim Ra, encompasses all of the divinity in both genders.
Quran says, if all the trees in this universe be Allah, know that God sees you. Another very popular verse from the Quran. The Revelation says, God says, we are closer to you than your jugular vein. Allah says, we are closer to you than your jugular vein. So there's an Eastern tradition that says, why is my devotee wandering to seek me?